Boy, don't shrink your thinking. Well, I got a message. First of all, I want to do a huge shout out to Lavelle Casiero. I got a message from her this morning, and she had listened to back episodes of the podcast, and she said, just keep on going. She said the first two people that she wants to meet when she gets to heaven is my mama and my pops, which I thought was so amazing. My pops would constantly say things to me, and he would always start off with boy. And boy, don't shrink your thinking. Now, as a kid, sometimes it frustrated me. A lot of things that my pops talked about would frustrate me, but I didn't understand what he was talking about when he said, "Don't shrink your thinking." There was a part of me that was like, "Oh wow, anything is possible. I could do anything," which was amazing, being able to give me permission to go after whatever it was. And then as I went through within my life, and I started to gain a little bit of wisdom, which came from spending a little bit of time with God, that wisdom brought me to knowledge, and that knowledge brought understanding, and that brought insight, and it brought discretion, which brought discernment. And let's bring you right to this part of discernment. So the discernment says, when I hear, boy, don't shrink your thinking, the discernment says, don't shrink your thinking when you're focused on God's will for you. But when you're comparing yourself to somebody else's stuff, or you want something because somebody else has it, that's actually not shrinking your thinking. That's actually just having discernment. And as I sat down today, there was a couple things that I wanted. There was things that I wanted to have happen this morning. And you know what? They didn't happen. And now I've got to look at it and say, was that God's will? Well, God's will was for me to be right here, right now. And if he needed me someplace else, then he would have me there. And I want to encourage every single one of you. If you got a desire on your heart that's in line with God's will, and there's a block, yes, ask God to give you peace and give you the strength to be able to move through it. But if you're desiring something that isn't for you, allow yourself to sit for a second and realize that sometimes that's a delay because it's not exactly what God will have for you. So Proverbs 24, as I sat down with it today, it was very, very clear. And it just shows us that desiring something that's outside of God's will for our lives because somebody else has it is foolish. Although God's desire will strengthen us beyond our comprehension when we're in line with his will. So why don't we get this party started?
Yeah, and this the vibe that raised us, made us, saved us. Love so strong that the hard times praised us. From base life roots to the freeway nights, we turn small rooms into launch pad flights. Yeah, this the vibe that raised us, made us, saved us. Love so strong that the hard times praised us. From base life roots to the freeway nights, we turn small rooms into launch pad flights. We begun surfing waves too low, made our own rules everywhere we go. Held tight to the truth that our parents declared. Anything is possible, the love stayed there. Now Rob's daughter ballin' on the end scene. Olay scene, Will's kids live dreams we never could have seen. This the vibe that raised us, made us, saved us. Love so strong that the hard times praised us. From base life roots to the freeway nights, we turn small rooms into launchpad flights.
That's the one that's supposed to be there. Have you ever wanted something and you didn't get it? This was a question that was asked to me on a flight one time by a guy named Chris. He's still my friend. I actually need to reach out to him today. And Chris asked me, was there something in your life that you ever wanted and you didn't actually get? And I turned to him and I said, yes. And he looked at me and he said, then you truly didn't want it. I said, wait a second. He said, you'll buy what you need, but you'll kill for what you want. He said, you'll be willing to do anything if you truly, truly want it. Well, this brought to mind this morning because, I wanted to push through. There was a desire that I had that I thought, and I was so excited for it. And I got up this morning, and I was prepared, and I got myself ready and all those things. But sometimes that thing that we want is not in line with God's will. Now, when we desire something because somebody else has it, That's different than desiring God's will. When we desire God's will in our life, He will move mountains. He will make things happen. I think about it way back in my days, and I moved to Las Vegas in 1999, and I remember I wanted this suit, and I went and um, you know the suit was way more than I could afford at the time, and I went to the store, and I remember as I went to hand over the cash, it was all that I had at the time, and I knew that I thought that the suit would help me to feel a little bit better, whatever it was. I had prayed about it. I asked my pops about it. I went through all these things. And as I went to buy the suit with all the money that I had, I remember putting it out, putting all the money, and I had it in my hand. It was cash. And the guy goes to grab it. And as he grabs it, I kind of pulled it back a little bit in my other hand, handed him a business card. And as I hand him the business card, he was like, "Well, what is this?" And I said, "This is my business card. And I want you to know, and I want every single person that you come in contact with to know that I'll take care of them at the highest level." And I handed the card. Well, by me handing that card, I would like to think that that's what God led me to do. I believe that. And I handed him the card. And as I did, that card was more valuable than all the money that was in my hand, which was all the money that I had. I ended up exchanging that money for the suit. I got the suit, but I had given the guy the card, and that guy was responsible for so much business that it far outweighed the cost of the suit. Now, the next time when this happened, it was a car. I didn't have the amount of money, but God put it on my heart. This is where I want you to go, and this is the kind of car that I want you to have. But He put a stipulation: you got to have this much money before you can actually do it. And God provided. Boom! So He did it with the suit. He did it with a car, and then the next time He did it with a house. And I remember I went with a real estate agent, and I looked at a house. This was in Las Vegas. I had never bought a house before, and we go and we look at it, and we're on the way home, and I'm thinking, man, I don't got any money, but and God asked me at that time, what is if the money isn't an issue, what else do you have to do to be able to buy a house? And I remember having this conversation. I was having this conversation internally while I'm driving with the real estate agent away from the house. And in my head, I'm thinking, the only thing you have to do is sign papers. That's all you have to do, outside of money. You just have to sign papers. And, God just let me know. He put a piece on my heart, like, I'll take care of it. Well, I didn't have anything at all at that time. I think I had like $1,500 to my name, savings, everything like that. And, the lady told me that, if you sign the lease, or if you sign the paper, then, we get an offer in, and then you have to put down earnest money, which was 1%. And that's exactly how much money I had. I had $1,500. The house was $150,000. I wish I could buy another house like that at 150 grand. And at 150 grand, I put down the 1,500, I signed it, and I did that. And I was thinking, man, I've got to have, the down payment within 30 days, or I lose the earnest money, which was my savings. And it was amazing because God provided every single thing. I mean, I got checks back from utility companies. I got checks back from insurance. I got all these things. I got random checks in the mail. I got all these things, and God just provided. Because when He told me, He said, like, if you take away the money, what else do you have to do? And I was like, just sign papers. Well, He provided the money, and then I signed the papers. Now, this all sounds well and good, and this is not for me to say, or for you to hear and say, I need to go out and do something beyond my means. But when you're working within God's will, there's nothing beyond your means. Although when you're working inside of your will and in your desire, there are things outside your means, and you can get yourself in trouble. And I've done that in the past. But when I thought about it today, and I sat down with Proverbs 24, when I think about my pops, and he said, boy, don't shrink your thinking. Now, God calls us not to shrink our thinking when we're working inside His will, but when we're working outside His will, He uses that shrinking thinking as a protection. Now, all of us have been in a place where we've wanted something that was outside of what God would have for us. And we've all been in the place where we made that thing happen because that's what we wanted. And then most likely we've paid the price for it. And if you haven't paid the price for it, you're perfect. And I want to applaud you. You should create a course, put it online, and sell it to everyone and show them how to be able to do it. But all the rest of us, normal human beings, have wanted something so bad that we did anything in our power. And then when we got it, we realized the value of that thing or the value of that experience, whatever it wasn't anywhere near what we thought it was. But the flip side of it is when we're walking in God's will, when we're being wise. Now, wisdom is the right use of knowledge. It comes from spending time with God, and that's the only place that it comes from. Spending time with God means that we have the fear of God or the respect of God, seeing his words, seeing his actions, they're in line. Then we have respect for him. That respect is the beginning of all wisdom. Wisdom is the right use of knowledge. So that way we can bring knowledge in. We can study things. And when we study things, then we gain understanding. From that understanding, we gain insight. From that insight, we gain discretion. From that discretion, we build a little muscle or a big muscle we should have in our life called discernment. And that discernment builds strength. Actually, it builds discipline, and then it builds strength, and then it leads us right back to the fear of God, which is the beginning of all wisdom. But if you're listening right now, or you're watching right now, most likely, you've been in this type of dilemma. Do I need to shrink my thinking right now because it's a protection? Because it's not what's for me? Or should I not shrink my thinking because I need to expand my comprehension? Well, the only way to know the difference is to spend time with God and ask him what is right for you at that particular time. That's the crazy thing. The difference between wisdom and foolishness is just the lack of wisdom. And things tend to be foolish when we're not taking it to him first. And so as I sat down with this today, my pops was inviting me to see beyond my present, to see what's possible if I got out of the way and allowed God to be God. But that doesn't always mean that what I want or what I think I want is exactly in line with that. And so I was looking at it in Proverbs 24. It shows us that desiring something because someone else has it is foolish, although the desire of God's will stretches us beyond our comprehension. And when I looked in Proverbs 24, as I ran down, this is 3,000-year-old wisdom. This isn't just fly by night. This is foundational things. This is principle based. And so as I looked at this ancient wisdom, desiring something that isn't for you never ends well. Think about something that you've desired because somebody else had it or you desired it and it just wasn't for you. Like that, if it's not for you, it's okay. And this is a great thing for my wife. My wife is very peaceful in these things. When I want something, I'm just get ultra focused on it, and she brings me right back to reality. Now, there's the calming piece. I remember the second home that I bought in Las Vegas. My pops and I get out of the pool. We're going to get some, I think, chlorine. We're on the way, and I see what I think is an apartment complex or a duplex or whatever, a fourplex or whatever. And then we get closer and we realize it's a house. And we go get the chlorine. We're on the way back. I'm in board shorts, one of the little white tank tops that people refer to as another type of, it had a word and we're not supposed to use it nowadays, but whatever, I was wearing it. And we roll in and we see that this duplex or apartment complex is not that, it's a house. And this house was massive. And I have no business at the time, going in and even thinking about this house. But me and my pops go in and I feel a peace. I feel like I see, I see it. And I don't know if you've ever been in this place where you just see something and it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make financial sense. It doesn't make any sense at all. But you just have this feeling, this overwhelming feeling that, hey, this thing's going down. Well, we walk in, we look at it, and we're back and forth, and I'm like, man, this would be amazing. But I'm thinking, for me and my financial picture at the time, it was like, this isn't for me. But I remember God saying, I remember asking him, praying on it over and over again. And he said, there's sometimes where you wait on my voice, and other times you act in my peace. And I was so peaceful a couple of days later. And I just drove down, just so peaceful. Nothing stopped me. And I didn't get anxious, anything like that. I just drove over to the place where the house was. And there was the office there. And I walked in, and it was one of the bigger ones in the neighborhood. And I walked in and I said, I want to take that one. And what was amazing about it is I did it. I was so peaceful. Probably a week later, they called me and they said, "You made a good decision because our homes have gone up, $50 to $75,000 within the last week." Sometimes you wait on his voice, and other times you act in his peace. But his peace will always come, and it'll pass all understanding. When we're seeking God's will, we're not seeking to keep up with the Joneses. So desiring something that isn't for you never ends well. Wisdom is rooted and grounded and can be tested and will be consistent with wise counsel. You see, when I was feeling peaceful, when God said to me, sometimes you wait on my voice, other times you act in my peace, I remember just driving and I was so peaceful. And then I talked to my pops. And he said to me, God's peace passes all understanding. My understanding at the time was that I wasn't supposed to buy the house. I didn't have the money at the time. But what God's peace said was, I'll provide. And you know what he did? He provided. Wisdom will be rooted and grounded, and it will be consistent with wise counsel. Now, there's times where you'll feel like, and I've done this before too. I've done it on the opposite side. I really want this thing. I feel so peaceful about this thing. I didn't feel peaceful about it. I just wanted it. I felt like I just got to go and get this because someone else I'm going to miss out. I'm going to have FOMO. I'm going to miss the housing opportunity. I'm going to miss these things. I'm going to miss these things. I got to go get it now. But that's a different side than being peaceful and allowing God's will to work. And just understand and know that if you're seeking out the difference between the two, you have a decision to make right now. You have something that's on the plate. It will be, if it's peaceful and if it's God's will for your life, it'll be consistent. And then you'll have wise counsel that comes in and it'll reiterate that, and it'll be consistent there. You won't get from both sides, but just seek wise counsel. And wise counsel comes from people who are spending time with God. Wisdom has built a high price, and it must be paid before access is granted. And all the things that the prices, it'll be listed below is what I said, because in my notes I wrote down like, okay, well, if wisdom has a high price, God told me this. This was confusing to me this morning because as I sat down with Proverbs 24, he always told me was wisdom was simple and, I'll give it to you freely and all these things. And then he told me that wisdom has a high price. Well, the high price is not a financial side, but this price must be paid before the access to the wisdom is granted. And then he listed it out. And this is the cool thing with God, right? Do the right thing and do right business. That's one of the prices you have to pay. Stand firm and steadfast in wisdom, right? And if we're going to do that, we got to spend time with him. Seek God's will for you personally. And then don't block the blessing. Don't block the blessing yourself. Sometimes God is blocking that thing from happening because it's not going to be a blessing. When it's outside of his will for you, he'll block things. Now, if you jump over the block, then it doesn't end well. That's what we talked about. But on the flip side of it, when you're walking in God's will and you can't understand, how am I ever going to be able to do this because of my finite thinking? What God is saying is, if I have called it to be, if it is my will for your life, do not block that blessing. Stay humble, work hard, and stay focused on your land, not somebody else's. This was a thing that I talked to my son Maddox about. We went to see the runarounds the other day, and when we went to see him, he took pictures with all the band members. He got meet and greet. He did a sound check. It was so awesome. But what I told him is the same thing that my mama told me. I said, someday, son, people are going to be waiting to take a picture of you. Yes, you're excited to see these guys, but they are human beings working their gifts. That's the reason why we should celebrate them. But there's going to be the day where someone is saying, I want a picture with Maddox. Those kids, the runarounds the other night, they all got a chance to meet you. Stay humble, work your land, and stay focused on what God's will is for you in your life. Don't be fearful when you're walking with God. Now, when you're not walking with God, be fearful. that is a response. That's a response, a protection response. When you're walking outside of his will, that fear that you feel is justifiable. But when you're walking with God, it doesn't mean you're not going to feel fear, but just give it to him. And don't shrink your thinking in that, because shrinking your thinking will block the blessing when you're walking in God's will. Now, when you shrink your thinking when you're not in God's will, that's actually a good thing. And so my wife and I, we were talking about this morning, and I want to make sure in my life that never, never, never am I blocking blessing. And this was a big thing with our Carlsbad location. We had a situation where we had purchased the business. We were moving out. The guy backed out on the terms, and then he said I could build one next door to you. And it was only 6 weeks out. And I remember Brooke was like, "Absolutely not. We're sticking with it. We're going." And then we prayed about it, and I asked her, "What did you get after we prayed?" And she said, "Well, what did you get?" And I said, "Well, I got that God said don't block the blessing." And she's like, "I got the same thing." And we allowed that guy to build the place next to us in 6 weeks. And we went through challenges with construction, all those things, but it was exactly what we wanted, actually exceedingly abundantly more than what we wanted. Whereas the one that if we had held on to, it was almost. And we don't serve an almost God. We don't serve an almost God. We serve an utmost God. So don't block the blessing when you're walking in God's will. Do the right thing, seek wisdom, and a good name. So it's not only when I talk about this and talk about a relationship with God and stuff like that, a lot of times people hide behind that and they're like, oh, I just need to seek God. I've been in this place before. I just need to seek God. And that's all. No. You need to honor God and you need to honor man in that and it's not that we honor man before, but we honor God, and God will have us to honor man. When we have a phenomenal heart and we fill our heart up with wisdom, which is spending time with God, God will lead us to right business practices. I just got a chance to be able to see this thing lived out. And this was with HM Alpha Resorts. And I got a chance to be able to see Tim Horton. And if you got a chance to be around this guy, he said nothing about like a relationship with God or anything like that. But I know based off of his business practices that those are the principles that he lives by, because he was celebrating all his people. I got to sit in a conference and his whole presentation was just about naming people specifically and speaking life to them. Unreal. Understand your purpose, work your gifts, and build your life around them. That's one of the prices that we have to pay, right? So wisdom has a high price. One of the prices that we have to pay is we have to understand our purpose, understand what you're gifted at, right? Then work those gifts and then build your life around those gifts. It's a pretty simple thing. In Proverbs 24, it lists it out. In verse 27, hit that. Be a man of your word or a woman of your word. And then be diligent in your work, meaning that you have right work, that you're not busy, that you're focused. And this one is a tough one for me because I get busy. I think doing all these things is the best thing in the world. And sometimes I'm like, oh, I want to force this thing to be. This has to be. And what my wife tells me is, nah, do right work. Right work is like a sniper, like one bullet, bam, done, all done, and then we're out. That's the way that my wife, Brooklyn, works. She's very diligent. She just targets it. Pow, she hits it. She does some of the most high-end weddings, but she has a specific bride. She gets off the call with a potential bride, and people are booking her, and she's booked out for almost a year, and she's the best in the industry. In 2025, she was the number one wedding hairdresser in all of San Diego, and she's the best. And so she has all these people coming at her, but you know what she does? She knows exactly what's for her. She gets off the phone with a consultation, and I ask her one question: was that your bride? And she either says yes emphatically or no emphatically. There's no maybe, no gray area. She has sniper fire. She's diligent. So be diligent with your work. When we desire something that isn't God's will for us, things don't end well. Although, when we desire God's will, the challenge comes when we try and block his blessing. Walk with him, seek wisdom, and then listen to my pops. Boy, don't shrink your thinking. It's taken me years to understand what my pops was talking about in that, because we have to add discernment. We have to have the muscle of discernment to say, like, let's not shrink our thinking when it comes to God's will in our life. Let's allow that shrinking thinking to happen when I'm desiring something that's outside of his will. Don't block the blessing because of your finite thinking, because of your circumstances, because of your resources. Become resourceful in that. Don't block the blessing when we're walking in God's will. Don't shrink your thinking in that side. But on the flip side, when we're desiring something that isn't for you, when we're desiring something that isn't designed for you or isn't designed for us, then allow the shrinking of thinking to be a warning sign. Allow the blocking of blessing to be a warning sign. But how do we know the difference between the two? Well, that's up to you. Spend a little bit of time with the one who created it in the first place. Choose wisdom, choose foolishness. Either way, you just have to be okay with the end result. There's been so many times where I've chosen foolishness and worked towards what I wanted and pushed towards what I wanted, and then I end up in a place where I blame other things. Oh, I can't believe that. And then there's other times where God shows something, and I can't even fathom it. How is this ever going to happen? And sometimes I wait on his voice, and other times I act in his peace. But I tell you, he has always provided in that place. When he calls us to it, and it's his will for our lives, don't shrink your thinking and don't block the blessing. I hope you have a phenomenal day. Check out Proverbs 24 too, and then come check us out at the Vibe Room. The Vibe Room is going to be absolutely amazing. It's March 11th. It's going to be incredible. The lineup is ridiculous. So I want to thank you to Lavelle Casiero. Thank you so much for listening and tuning in. David Blackford, you are an incredible human being. I love you. Joe Schumpert, thank you so much. Let's see, Wayne Freeman, Edward Gordon, I'm going to get you on the podcast. And Julie, I could tell you all the time. But Julie Vargas, you mean so much to me, more to me than you could ever imagine. You pump people up, you build people up, you give people opportunities, and I just want to tell you how much I appreciate you. Coy, I know you're listening. This is a little guy that's, he's not that little anymore. I think you're probably 13 or 14 now. Coy, you listen, you comment on almost every one of the podcasts, and I want to thank you so much. You are an incredible human being. Keep pushing, man, and just keep listening to your parents. They're amazing, but I want to tell you guys how much it means to me that you guys tune into the podcast in the first place. We got some great guests. If you didn't get a chance to be able to listen to the last couple interviews, Michael Dreeben, absolute genius. We had Nichelle Early. She was phenomenal. And we'll keep doing this thing, keep having fun. And remember, next season in the NFL is the Tennessee Titans season. That's how we're doing it. I'm officially off the hot seat. Peace, love, and soul.
Yeah, yeah, and this the vibe that raised us, made us, saved us. Love so strong that the hard times praised us. From base life roots to the freeway nights, we turn small rooms into launch pad flights. Yeah, this the vibe that raised us, made us, saved us. Love so strong that the hard times praised us. From base life roots to the freeway nights, we turn small rooms into launch pad flights. We begun surfing waves too low, made our own rules everywhere we go. Held tight to the truth that our parents declared. Anything is possible, the love stayed there. Now Rob's daughter ballin' on the end scene, Olay scene. Will's kids live dreams we never could have seen. This the vibe that raised us, made us, saved us. Love so strong that the hard times praised us. From base life roots to the freeway nights, we turn small rooms into launch pad flights.